Thanks, Cara, for this. This is a really interesting first question, concerned with Shakespeare's place on school curriculums in an American context in this instance, but also very relevant to us, I think. Shakespeare is often being accused of dramatizing racist and anti-Semitic viewpoints, and consequently some school districts are even removing his plays from their curriculums. If you were to argue on behalf of the relevance of teaching Othello today, what would you say to a panel of uncompromising administrators? Well, I would say that the accusation that Shakespeare is dramatizing racist and anti-Semitic viewpoints is, in a sense, doesn't need to be an accusation. Shakespeare is certainly dramatizing racist and anti-Semitic viewpoints, and that is precisely why he needs to be studied, because Shakespeare is pretty impressive at how he manages precisely to show the workings of xenophobia, misogyny, racial hatred, gendered hatred, and so on, and kind of blow it up from the inside. I would argue that he shows, most importantly, why people would fear, and shows then very clearly why fear is at the root of these huge social problems like xenophobia. That it is precisely our anxieties about the presence of the foreigner in our midst, or the openness of England's borders, and so on. He emphasizes how a kind of neurotic mindset is driven into fear by openness, by vulnerability, by the presence of others within what you thought was an enclosed space, and so on. And therefore he shows how violent xenophobia is a response to fear. And I think it's only when we understand how the people we don't agree with, how and why they are thinking as they think, that we can talk to them, actually. And that we don't just want to say we don't like people who vote for Trump and so on. We need to work out what they're scared of. And once you work out what they're scared of, you can work out why they're throwing up borders between them and Mexico, because they are inoculating themselves from the fear of contact with the other. And Shakespeare shows you over and over again, whether it's in Troilus and Cressida, whether it's in Hamlet, where the very first scene is set on battlements, and then it's shown to be a kind of infection that comes from within. Over and over again, Shakespeare says, look, I understand why you would retreat within, and Hamlet retreats profoundly within, but you have to remain open. So I think there is no better answer, really, in a sense, than to say he dramatizes the mechanics of racism and sexism and lots of horrible things. And that's why we study him, because it's only through studying these things that we understand them. And then it's only through understanding them that we can address them, talk about them openly and intelligently to our students, and help them work through responses to fear. Because if we just tell people not to be scared, it doesn't work. So you have to understand why people are scared. And I think Othello is a play that precisely understands why people trust Iago. And once you do need to understand that, you can't just turn a blind eye and say there are no Iagos in the world. There are lots of Iagos in the world, and you need to kind of look at them. So that's what I would say to that, Cara. I hope that's helpful. I think, as Stephen Greenblatt very famously said, Shakespeare dramatizes the dark energies. And if you don't look at the dark energies, you won't deal with them. You won't be able to address them. And teachers' jobs is to address it, not to hide it. So
very much so.
I think Merchant of Venice is a foul play. It is a foul play. It's bloody hard to say it isn't. That's why it needs studying. You've got to study the foul stuff.
Yeah. Thank you.